All right, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Peters. I'm officially the general manager of Sandhills Farm and Table Cooperative. I typically refer to myself as the head coach. And to just change the dynamics a little bit of my corporate background. But I want to say thanks for having me this morning, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our cooperative that we have based here in the Sandhills. But I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story about our start. In 2008, two founders came together and saw an interesting sort of dichotomy occurring in the local food chain. So 2008, everybody remembers that. That's when sort of things went south in a big way. And they noticed that farmers were leaving their land at one of the highest rates in North Carolina as tobacco contracts and subsidies were being lifted to build tobacco allotments. Consumers, that's you and I, were desperate for convenient access to source-verified local produce, right? High-quality nutrients and all that sort of stuff. And finally, communities were hurting. That's just the reality. And they were looking for ways to come together and start to kind of rebuild in response to this crisis that was generated, arguably, well, I won't get into that. We'll just say the crisis. These founders believed that a new way of distributing local produce could actually tap into our innate desires to come together as a community and then and actually launch a way to connect farmers to consumers and help the community heal and rebuild. That's what they saw. 5 years later, and we're now going into our sixth season, at the core of our business, we distribute produce boxes, CSAs. We now ship about 23,000 of them a year. Just to put that in perspective, that's one box for every player, coach, staff member, support staff, attendee, fan that's at the UNC Duke game that was just recently held up at the Dean Smith Center. It's one box for every single one of the people there. We buy over $350,000 in produce from producers here in the Sandhills. $350,000. Just to put that in perspective, if you have like a mid-size automobile, that's about a tank of gas every week for 210 years. We do all of that while we're donating about 3 tons of produce to local low-access neighborhoods in the Sandhills. 3 tons. Can somebody tell me about how many elementary school kids that is? Not that many. Right now, that's about 62, which is just about your average Class C school bus. Okay, so next time you're rolling down the road and you see a Class C school bus full of elementary kids, that's about how much produce we donate on an annual basis. We also turn 3,300 volunteer hours into $43,000 worth of contributions back into the communities that support our program. $43,000. That is a box of pencils, as I'm holding my iPad and know that students no longer use pencils, but at least it relates to me. It's a box of pencils for every single student registered in the county of Moore County. That's 12,000 students. Of course, our distribution is across Moore County and the 9 contiguous counties. It's throughout the Sandhills, but it just puts it in perspective for you. So that's a little bit about what we are, where we've come from. We are neighbors feeding neighbors, and we are the Sandhills Farm to Table Cooperative. So let me just spend a little bit of time here, knowing we are on a time limit, to just talk to you about our business, our market, and some of our competitive advantages before I just wrap up and transition over to some questions. So real quickly, as you already got a little hint, our core business is a large-scale CSA, multi-producer, multi-consumer access, and we distribute these boxes in 3 or 4 different subscription types. We have full year, seasonal subscriptions. Boxes range in price from about $22.50 up to $25, depending on which package you go with. And they are designed by us, rolling with the harvest. Okay. We also have an online artisanal marketplace that goes along with that, locally sourced meats, cheeses, bulk produce, and other value-added items. They are purchased by the consumer on a weekly basis. We then package and distribute them with our weekly distribution. Our market is primarily Moore County and the 8 or 9 contiguous counties touching Moore County. So Cumberland is on the, which we're in right now, is on our eastern side, and then we have Richmond and Montgomery and all those on the other side of Moore County. So traditionally the Sandhills in North Carolina. That's our consumer, that's where we deliver. We also source from that same geographic range. We have competitors out there. Some of you might have known or heard of them. Carolina Grown, the produce box up in Raleigh, other just local CSAs that are single farm CSAs. Very few of them can overlay their where they deliver and where they source and have it be the same geographic area. This is about connecting the community. And that's really at the core of what we do. Just as a reference point on the $350,000 spent, there are studies out there that say $1 spent locally typically circulates 7 times before exiting the local economy. So just in procurement from the local farms, if you consider that local, which I would because the farms are there, $350,000 times 7 is generating how much economic activity times 7?
2.1 million.
There you go, $2.1 million in economic activity just through the farmer base. That doesn't include other expenses that, again, we all try and spend locally to continue to drive economic activity. Where are we now? Right now, we're at about within those 9 counties, we have about 1,900 participating households or families, subscribers. Okay. That's off of a potential market size. Those 9 are core counties, if you will, of some 250,000 households, warm households. That's according to the census, 250,000. We all know that in this area we have a lot of folks that do not report living here as their home area, so we actually have uplift in that as potential access. So we're at like 0.6% penetration in our core market. 0.6%. To get where we are in the life cycle, we're right at the break-even point. We're not into a viable and a sustainable trajectory yet, but we probably need to be at a grand total of about 0.75%. We need about 2,400 families to be stable in what we do on a year-over-year basis. Some folks are saying, well, entrepreneurs, you want to grow, you want to get more, get 5% and all that. Well, you know what? We know we have churn. People come with us for a year, they leave for a year, they come back for a year and all that. So we're saying that. Set our sites where we need to set them, and given that our mission is to move product off of farms and drive the conversation about healthy food access in our communities, we can be here to do that on a recurring basis. We don't have to be big to do that. We take what we need. We have 4 segments that we look at within those households. We have a price conscious, which is why we aren't priced at like $60 a box. We have the local supporter, so they want to be a part of who we are just because we're local. Right? We have the dietitian. It's all about healthy food. It's the right things to eat. They need that kind of food product in their diets. And then finally, the community advocate. The community advocate is like, I need to be part of this because it is something that we need in the fabric of our community, and I will support it in some way, shape, or form. That's just a little bit about our market and where we are. We have a lot of range as far as market potential. We feel here in the area, and we have a pretty good bead on who we're going after. It's just a matter of getting to them. Our competitive advantage. It's interesting because we have 3 factions reported, or 3 segments represented on our board. We have consumers, we have the producers, and we have the staff all represented on our board. And they're all members of the co-op. Right? So with that, we have to be competitive for all 3 groups. So not only in the consumer side, the folks that buy the boxes, of course we have to be competitive there, and really it's convenience. It's convenient access, weekly, locally sourced. I don't have to drive to a farmer's market. I don't have to find the farms. We take care of that. We also take care of the quality control. We take care of the box design, all those types of things. So a lot of it is convenience. A lot of it is local access. Something we drive towards in Sandhills Fresh is less than 20 hours and less than 80 miles. That's less than 20 hours from the farm to your table and less than 80 miles total drive time. people out there, the word local is being co-opted. Everybody's local. Go click on Harris Teeter's page and see what local is. Less than 20 hours, less than 80 miles, that's about as local as it's going to get in this day and age, unless you're going to pick it up yourself. We also have to be competitive and have an advantage, competitive advantage for our producers so that they want to sell their product to us. Okay? So for us, for the core products that we include in our box, because we have a subscriber base, we can actually commit demand and a higher price point for those producers. And they use that to mitigate risk in their other operations. So if they know X percent of their asparagus crop is already spoken for, they can grow Y more and take some risk on that and look for other outlets. So we're putting some power and some control back in the hands of the producers. And then finally, on the staff and volunteer side, remember we use 3,300 hours of volunteer labor. We need efficient, transparent, and local means of transforming time and passion into money, which is what we give. So for example, one of our gathering sites is St. Patrick's Catholic School here downtown. We also work with Sustainable Sandhills on several sites here in the area. And what we do is allow people that are passionate about this food movement and community move these boxes, and in response we give them contributions, and that's where the $43,000 comes from. Unlimited fundraising for their community venture. So that's our competitive advantage. We walk the local mission. We also walk the community mission. How it all works, we do online marketing and sales, getting out in the community just like this. We then roll on a weekly basis, defining the box contents, packing them in a central location, and distributing them through a term we call gathering sites. These are in each of our micro markets. Okay? Typically, in a micro market, we'd like to have a commercial, a faith-based, and also an educational gathering site. They're the ones that would then distribute the boxes to the consumers and also raise the money through contributions. I'm going to have, like, as I mentioned, we have Sustainable Sandhills, Cumberland Coffee Roasters, who's coming up next to speak, is going to be one of our gathering sites as well. All locally owned businesses, community-owned businesses, and typically community hubs. That's what we're trying to foster. The interesting thing is, where are we now and where are we headed? Yes, we're going into our 6th season. As I mentioned, we're like break-even land, and in the phase of a startup, we're looking towards viability. Viability is where we can start taking some money, reinvesting it in the business, and actually having some flexibility. All right. We currently are about a $600,000 in the top line revenue side, and very low debt. And a tremendous community background. We do have churn. The people that came in behind us have an altruistic bent to them that fatigues over time. So now we're looking for those consumers to help fuel us. So really it's about getting our brand out there and really being in the market. Farmers can't be in the market. They need to be on the farm. Right? So that's the service that we're providing for them. All right, it's probably right around 6 to 9 minutes. So with that, I will stop my comments and then open it up to any questions.
What's the number one consumed fruit or vegetable that you what did you have, and then the second thing is what do you need more of?
We are looking for any type of variety, but the consumer favorites are strawberries when we hit strawberry season, and peaches. The Sandhills are very well known for both of those products. A lot of products have actually gone the way of, been cast aside as people move towards row crops and tobacco primarily, and are now coming back. Through Sandhills Farm to Table, bok choy has made a return. Kale, of course, and all the traditional greens that we grow are pretty massive. But the fruits are the consumer favorites. They're typically soft, they do not travel well, so if they're being brought in from anywhere outside of your local region, more than likely they've been enhanced or modified in some sort of way, and that of course takes away nutrients and all those wonderful sorts of things. So we do early season fruits. They attract a lot of folks. And then when we get into the falls, a lot of the hardier products around the squashes and things like that, and gourds and everything else. We do through our artisanal market, and this is also becoming much more positive, offer access to grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chickens and everything, of course, here in the Sandhills. And so that's coming online.
Holiday turkeys and pine trees.
Yes, the holiday turkeys and pine trees as well. Mums, we do flowers, yeah, we do it all. So, what we do need more of right now is the consumer base. So that's the access, is getting the word out there. Yeah, we have the capacity in the Sandhills as long as we can keep the people on the farm.
So do you actually have a storefront location?
We do not have a storefront.
Or an office?
Sorry?
Do you have an office?
Yes, we have an office, an administrative office that we work out of in Southern Pines, North Carolina, and then we have a packing facility out in Whispering Pines, which is geographically right in the middle of where we want to be, connecting our producer base, which is primarily the western part of the Sandhills, although it's growing down in the southern area and north of Fayetteville, to the consumer bases of the region. So we're trying to be that connecting force.
How many pounds in the box?
It can range depending on the time of year. We typically count by item, so we do anywhere from 7 to 9 items as we go through the season. And then that will be out of the box items. And the reason I say, we have to watch the pounds thing is when we get into melon season, you'll have a full box, but then you also have a big gigantic watermelon that goes home with you as well. So when I say box, it's all relative.
So on your brochure, it also has that you have a bread and vegetable box. You have a harvest box, a family harvest box, and a bread and vegetable box. What's the main difference between them?
Some folks get overwhelmed by this much produce in a single week or a single delivery. It's a lot. I happen to have Vitamix and a juicer and all that, so this to me is like I pound through this like it's in 3 days. But for others, it's a lot to get through. Especially singles, retirees, those types of things. So we offer the bread alternative. What we do is we take about 20-ish% of the box value, and we take that out from the produce perspective and put in fresh baked loaves break that morning from the bake house in Aberdeen, which is a locally owned community and bakery, and distribute it. And they're all grains and everything else. So it's an option for folks that can't handle all of that produce. But allows us to maintain our price point. Yeah. So for folks that just want less produce, we could have brought in a lower price box, but then we're just packing less and delivering less, and you get into the economics.
Yeah, but still at $22.50 plus tax, you're talking $25. That's extremely reasonable.
We love that.
Yeah.
Tell all your friends that.
Who has not bought vegetables lately? It's like $30, $40.
Well,
Been to Harris Teeter?
Well, when people go to Harris Teeter, they don't think about it, right? They know they're going to drop around $100, whatever they buy.
Or bought a Starbucks.
When they go to the farmers market, how much do people bring in cash? Like a number of our vendors at farmers market are now taking Square, they're now taking cards, and that helps. But people don't think about how much they actually spend in grocery stores on produce.
That's right. And there is a trade-off. So we understand. So you bring up an interesting one here, which is where is our price point?
You'll get my bill in a minute.
You go, Bill.
we do think there's a little consumer resistance that we have around $25. So we do think there's a threshold in there, and we've sort of explored why is that.
I think
and everything
people
else.
don't think. When they go to the grocery store and they grab all that stuff and then they grab everything else, if they really got to the register and broke down what they spent on that produce, they'd be shocked.
Yes.
I have prices on my box, and last year, big giant thing of kale, some leftover blueberries, like towards the end, right at the transition season.
Yep.
I would have spent, even at the commissary, I think I would have spent about $40 on what I got in the box for $25.
Now, what we have to price in there is the fact that the consumer we are in this country trained for choice and abundance. So a lot of folks say, I'll pay $30 for whatever it is at the grocery store because I get to pick exactly what I need that day, whereas we are defining a delivery for them. So we have to price that in, and we know that.
Yeah.
And then we're also asking for a season-long commitment. We are military friendly. we understand that happens. Extenuating circumstances, so of course we listen. We're a community-based organization, but we are asking for a year-long commitment or season-long commitment. So we know we have to price that in.
But they can do once a month or twice a month. They don't have to do it weekly, correct?
Weekly and bi-weekly.
Yeah, so
and
you
then,
can choose weekly or bi-weekly.
That's right. And then this year, and even in years past, hopefully more convenient this year, you can call in and just reschedule your order. So even if you have a box scheduled for this week, and you say, I don't want it this week, I'll take 2 next week, and go there. But as opposed to outright canceling, which creates problems in the supply chain because the farmers already have. We have about a 28-day growing cycle on a lot of these things, maybe 30, so they've already planned capacity.
So did you bring sign-up sheets with you today for us to sign up?
No, but you can go to Sandhills
Yes,
Farm
we
Table.com.
can sign you.
Yes! Just checking.
That's why we have this.
So what's the sign up now discount?
Sign up now discount. If you sign up by the end of March, you're entered in a raffle for potentially having the co-op pay for your subscription. I'm just saying. By the end of March.
Wait,
Go ahead.
You talked about that 20% out of the bread box, and then you also alluded to donations.
Yep.
That you donate 3 tons of food.
Mhm.
Talk about that.
Absolutely.
Like, how is that piece?
Absolutely. So thank you for the. We launched this year for the next our next 5 years of the co-op. We have an overarching campaign called Share the Harvest. So that is going to be an element of what we are as a co-op. Our goal by year 10 is to be able to divert 5% of all purchased product to low access communities. Doesn't mean low income. So go with this, the stigmas. We're talking about food deserts, people like that don't have access to fresh produce. We know we have to reintroduce that food to those communities to get consumers to understand what it is before they probably want to come and buy from us. So our goal is to get there at 5% in year 10. Okay. Backing into that, we have a couple of ways that we contribute. So right now, the 3 tons comes from we buy extra pack, and it allows our packing efficiency to go up. We don't have to manage everything so tightly, so we buy extra from the producers. That then gets diverted. Consumers that don't want to pick up a box, don't have time, are out of town, gone to the beach for the weekend, whatever it is, they donate their boxes. So every gathering site has a partner that they work with. For any boxes that are donated that week, they convert that into the local community. We then, this year, as part of Share the Harvest, introduced a new subscription type called the Share subscription. We have a lot of folks that are doing this. This, again, is that community segment, community-minded segment. So instead of a bread and veg, maybe they're gluten tolerant or whatever, but they still want to participate, we will actually hold back about 20 to 30% of the produce and combine that with all the other produce that we collect and then donate it through. So they're getting a little bit less. They don't get covered up in produce, if you will. And then that combines on a community basis, and we donate that through. We have the coalition over in Southern Pines. We have Second Harvest, that's what it is here in Fayetteville, that we'll be doing it through. So this one is just getting up off the ground this year, and we got 5 years to build it.
What type of other marketing are you doing to get the word out, other than the flyers and
We do social media, so I'm very active in the Facebook community, also online through the web, etc. We do limited print. So primarily the pilot and Fayetteville Observer. So this is actually the first year we will be doing advertising with the Fayetteville Observer, looking at your Sunday magazine and also next Thursday's paper, or an ad for the first time. So we do limited print because of the cost, and then we do. So this is at the top level, and then we do from the grassroots up, using the gathering sites as our marketing engines. We allow them to take ownership of the cooperative. Really, it's just, we want to say, hey, you're the Fayetteville CSA, part of the Sandhills Farm Table network. And it's that community organization, it's those communities that want to raise the money and promote healthy foods that do a lot of our grassroots, social before it took Facebook to be social. So, yes, sir.
About the couple things. One, the farmers, do they have like certain requirements that they have to meet as far as items that they can use, what pesticides, et cetera? And two, what are you doing to access the military market? Because a lot of local places, because we're not included in the census, because most people are not actually residents, forget about the largest income revenue
Right.
in the area.
Oh, we know you're here.
Or they're not looking for it on Facebook. You know,
That's true.
Facebook's great, but if they don't know where to look on Facebook, they don't know to type in the word neighbors feeding neighbors.
Exactly.
It's really hard to find. There's a big misconception about that.
I agree. So the first one is on the producer side because it's important. We have very few organic producers here in the Sandhills, but we're doing our best to promote that. So we have options within our organization, alternative boxes that are smaller quantities to draw them on. So we have 3 new organic producers coming online this year. Beyond that, we have a low spray, no spray policy, and we are boots on the ground for all of our producers. So we visit every farm, we know all of their practices, and we are in full transparency on what they are. We can't say that, again, we cannot say they are, they are non-GMO. All of them are non-GMO. We cannot say they're no spray because there's residue issues and everything else, and organic is a label, like I said, that our producers are coming up to. A lot of them are going to have trouble with that simply because of cost. So that takes care of the producer base. We work with about 30 producers spread through the Sandhills. That network just continues to grow, and we're leaning in heavily to promote young folks coming on the farms. For the military, this year we were in contact. We started conversations last year, but we have 2 strategies for that. First of all, go where they live. So communities that tend to have high military concentrations, Carolina Lakes and the others. And then the second, this year, is we've started discussions with MWR, and MWR will give us access to, hey, just like we do with one other element of our program, which is called Workplace Wellness, where we plug into employers that have employee wellness programs. Typically they'll listen, hey, join your local CSA. Oh, by the way, we have this big one in the area called Sandhills Farm to Table. It's pretty cool. So First Health, over in the Sandhills, Sandhills Pediatrics. These are just a few examples. We would like to take on MWR as an entity like that and just have them say, hey, if you're looking for a CSA, here you go. And then the next thing is starting to link our information up through some of these portals and outlets such as communications venues like this. So that when people do the search and they land, when they Google whatever it is that they do, so a lot of folks will Google, for example, CSA, and we don't even pop up really. It's like, why is that?
What does CSA stand for?
CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture.
That's probably why.
Actually, so it's not a familiar term around here, but it's very familiar in the Northeast, Northwest, Southwest, wherever else.
You in the South now, honey.
Yes, but a lot of our military folks that are rotated in are very familiar with the CSA concept, but they think we don't have one.
Now, do you provide a list of the farmers also? Sorry.
I'm sorry, we might have time for Cumberland Coffee Roasters.
Yep.
Steve will be here afterwards. You
Yes,
can
I will.
follow up. But we got one more short question for you. What can we do to help you?
You can get the word out. Exactly what we're talking about here. I can sense it in the room. There's interest. There's wow, we didn't know this was here. Get the word out. A lot of the information we're talking about here, and I think your last question, do you tell us who the producers are? On our webpage. All of our producers there, all of our farms are mapped. You can see where they are and everything else. Sandhillsfarmtotable.com.
With the 2, not the letter 2, number 2.
Either one. Either one. Sandhills Farm to Table. And I got some flyers up over here too.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.